Um, the problem with politics is that it's a zero sum game. A zero sum game basically. There is a um there's a finite number of voters out there. Every vote that you get is a vote that the other side doesn't want you to get, or the side doesn't want you to have that vote at all. And that's why the headlines following the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago were practically unanimous. FBI search cements Trump's hold on the GOP, screamed the Hill. And Trump's dominance in GOP comes into focus, worrying some in the party, and it was how the Washington Post put it. Other headlines made the same point but tied Trump's iron grip on the party to Liz Cheney's primary defeat in Wyoming. Now, what Liz Cheney's lopsided loss says about the state of the GOP was what the New York Times ran with. Liz Cheney and the demise of anti-Trump republicanism was the headline in the New York Magazine, and that was the story that framed Cheney's fall as the death knell for the for the ancient regime of the conservative republicanism as we know it is not so very long. And this was just on Wednesday. Now, suffice it to say that political pundits and professionals are in agreement that despite or even because of all the scandals surrounding the former squatter, Trump has achieved an unprecedented stranglehold on Republican voters. Which voters is a question that's not being asked anyway. Now, sure, Liz Cheney just got under 30% of the Republican vote in a deep red state. The pundits seem to be ignoring the fact that it was Cheney who lost and not her voters. They stood by the Republican Party's top Trump critic, a woman who announced upon her defeat that she would do whatever it takes to keep Trump out of the White House. But now where do those people's votes go now? Because Cheney's gone. Now the television coverage of the House races where the 10 Republicans who voted to impeach Trump were on the ballot showed people who questioned Trumpian orthodoxy being shouted down at town halls. Now the Trump sycophants stole lawn signs supporting candidates who failed to adequately bow down to their Satanists. The New York Times reported that the cleansing of Trump critics from the Republican Party is still in progress, and so through that thorough that much of now it happens without Trump's direct involvement. Allies at local and state parties, as well as at Republican-linked organizations, they censure or oust those who break with the new orthodoxy. That doesn't basically sound much like asking those people to stick around and vote Republican when there isn't a Trump-endorsed candidate, or at least a Trump-loving candidate, on the ballot. The problem with this is that every Republican voter or candidate who isn't licking Trump's nuts is that the demographics already show that the party is going to need those people going forward, as the saying goes. Now, this applies to candidates who have entertained the idea of running against Trump in the 2024 Republican primary. If Trump decides to run for squatter again, multiple stories have covered potential Trump opponents like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who we don't need either, pledging allegiance to the monarch of Mar-a-Lago after the FBI search of his home in Palm Beach. Now, DeSantis appeared at a Klan rally for Turning Point USA last weekend, and he criticized the FBI. They're enforcing the law based on who they like and who they don't. No, they're not. DeSantis told the crowd of fresh-faced young Trumpozoids, "This is not a republic. Maybe it's that is not a republic, but maybe it's a banana republic when this happens." Now the Hill quoted a Republican political consultant at the Klan rally saying, "Any pathway for DeSantis to primary him from the right just closed completely shut if Trump decides to run. Now the voters now want revenge, and I suspect that they will manifest into them concluding the best way they can to get revenge, and that's by sending Trump back to being a squatter in the White House. The Republican Party is doing everything it can to banish from its ranks anyone who is deemed insufficiently loyal to the former squatter, especially the so-called impeachment 10, the Republican House members who voted to impeach Trump after the January 6th Capitol Klan assault said." Steve Bannon, who writes for the Mad Old blog on MSNBC, reported yes on Wednesday again. As members of the impeachment 10 can attest, it would also be a mistake to downplay Trump's influence, especially when the former squatter, fueled by a petty sense of vengeance, is determined to destroy the careers of specific members of his party. Now, what matters most is that much of their radicalized political party wouldn't tolerate their hearsay, which would overshadow every other part of their careers in public service. Now, Cheney's defeat wasn't just a defeat of an anti-Trump Republican; it was a defeat for what were once known as a movement conservative, the group of Republican leaders who had molded the party in their own image as being for the tax cuts and national defense, and against anything democratic, especially abortion and government handouts. It was, in short, the party of former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. But what does Newt Gingrich have to say about this? Well, anyway, Newt Gingrich was interviewed the other day by The Hill for a story about how the FBI search had strengthened Trump's hold on the party. Um, Gingrich said on the Republican side, with the exception of never Trumpers, virtually everybody else assumes the FBI is corrupt. They assume the January 6th committee is a fake committee covered by fake news, and they presume that there is an effort to murder Trump. If they keep this up, they won't have a major opponent for the primary. Now Democrats have a lot to run on in the midterm elections, which are less than 3 months away. They've got lower gas prices by passing the Inflation Reduction Act and the Dobbs decision overturning Roe v. Wade. But so far they have been only too happy to make Trump the big issue. Trump has done his part to help them, as several of his endorsed candidates appear to be failing. Mehmet Oz is behind John Fetterman in his race for the Senate in Pennsylvania. J.D. Vance is about even with Representative Tim Ryan, are slightly behind in Ohio. The hedge fund broker Blake Masters is trailing Senator Mark Kelly in Arizona, and Herschel Walker continues to walk into walls with his campaign against Senator Raphael Warnock in Georgia. The longtime Democratic consultant James Carville had told the Hill, the problem the Republican Party has is that they got really stupid people that vote in their primaries, and really stupid people demand to have really stupid leaders, and that's where the Republican Party is. Now, asked about Walker's candidacy in Georgia, Carville said, "Come on, man, that guy had an ill-filled helmet. He's not the right person at all." If Trump decides to run again in 2024, and that doesn't seem like a very big if at this point, it's pretty clear that he will run as a single-issue candidate. That the 2020 election was stolen from him, which it wasn't. Full stop. The search of Mar-a-Lago is just gravy, and there's sure to be more gravy to come as he faces grand juries in Washington, D.C. and Fulton County, Georgia, and not to mention the continuing saga unfolding before the January 6th selection committee in progress. Now Trump's base is apparently prepared to stand by his side. A poll conducted last month by Monmouth University revealed that an astonishing 61% of Republicans believe that January 6th was a legitimate Klan protest, which it wasn't, and 58% told pollsters that they believe that only by voter fraud did Joe Biden win the election of 2020. Now, even though Joe Biden did not win by voter fraud, the question remains is, where do these voters go when Trump is gone? Now, because even if Trump loses in the 2024 candidacy and is once again unable to overturn the results, or because he's convicted of a crime that carries a ban on him holding further federal office, at least one of the federal statutes for which Trump is under investigation supposedly carries that penalty. And although it's not clear that a law passed by Congress can prevent someone from becoming president or squatter again, it's pretty much beyond argument that if Trump were to run again and lose in 2024, he would be too fucking old to run again in 2028. Now when Trump isn't on the ballot and he's only got one more shot at doing that, how much power will pledging allegiance to his legacy have in the Republican Party or in the future? Can Trump maintain an iron grip on the Republican Party from the political grave? Now, I'm sure the whole owning the Democrats thing will still motivate the Republican base, but with Trump having patented that particular political tactic, will others be able to make it work as well? This might seem almost too delicious to contemplate, but it just may be that the same Trump has been the magic elixir that stoned the masses for the past 6 years, and that once he's gone, it will lose its twisted power. Whether Republicans will turn out to stand in line at polling places when their drug of choice is no longer available may be the next great question of our political future. Their guess is as good as ours about what the answer is, but for now, the lesser leaders of the Republican Party aren't spending much time contemplating life after Trump, and that may be their biggest fucking mistake of their lifetime. So if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell, so that a new video will come out. So you'll get notifications when a new video comes out. And if you wanna support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little as a few bucks a month, your donation can help go a long way. And thanks for listening.